welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. How is everyone doing? Hopefully well. I'm, of course, your host, Marcus Nez, and I've got a few games to talk about. Going to keep it light and short and simple and sweet this week because I spent a lot of this weekend getting things wrapped up with Attack the Backlog stuff I had backlogged. I had a backlog of Attack the Backlog episodes to get done and finished and ready to go when their time comes. So I did all that and now have 6 episodes in the bank, and I've been very proactive with my current game that I'm playing, which is Pokemon Legends ZA. I figured I'd play a brand new game for a change, and I did pre-order the game a few months ago because it is presumably one of the last games that is voucherable. If you forgot, Nintendo is retiring not disenchanting, not disemboweling. They are, what is the freaking term I'm looking for? They're getting rid of the vouchers. That's the end all be all. At the end of January next year. So I believe January 30th, 2026, they are discontinuing the vouchers. There it is. I know it was some dis something or other. I want to check this. It would be January 31st. I'm like, there's 31 days in January, aren't there? So it would be January 30th. But I believe at the end of January next year, that is going to be the last day you can purchase a pair of vouchers. And then you have from the point of purchase 12 months to use them. The last game we know about that will be voucherable is going to be Metroid Prime 4. But whether or not there is anything else that happens or releases from now or just in that window, who's to say? And who's to say if Switch 1 games published by Nintendo that are released after the vouchers are discontinued would be eligible, since they're coming out at a point where vouchers no longer exist. That is a very unknowable thing because it could go either way. With Nintendo, who fucking knows? But that's the game I've been streaming. If you don't know when I stream or any of that jazz, every weeknight, 7 p.m. Central to roughly around 10:40 p.m. So it's a pretty hefty chunk if you want to watch me play games and chat and all that jazz. Having a good time with Pokemon Legends ZA so far. Gonna keep it there. That's where I'm gonna leave it. Wait for the episode whenever it drops to get my full thoughts. But as I was saying, I've been more proactive, something I want to do with Attack the Backlog and streaming so that I can have better episodes out there and also have more, it's not even more fun with the production of episodes, but provide you with more gameplay examples when I'm specifically talking about something that could benefit from a clear and specific visual representation at that particular time. Like what I did with the South of Midnight episode, which you'll see at some point, where I pull out a bit of the singing and why I think the lyrics are not best in the music in that game. Or in the more recent-ish Death Stranding episode, I have the clip of the tip and how long it lingers on screen. But I've been taking clips and being sure to, in the moment, right as I take them, rename them with what they're a clip of, so I don't, at the end of me playing the game, I have 50 clips and then they're just a bunch of random things with their date. they were recorded. So I'm like, okay, is this a battle clip? Is this a clip of me just walking around the city? Is this a clip of me doing this particular side mission? Is it me doing some parkouring? Is it a boss fight? What is this a clip of? I don't know, because I didn't name them as I was clipping them. And also I'm taking notes of things that stick out to me and so on and so forth, so that I'll have all of that information to remember and reflect on and allow me to provide a better overall episode of It's at the Backlog. Speaking of Nintendo, though, and I'm obviously just lingering and lollygagging for the purpose of trying to stretch out this episode a little bit, but we had our second Nintendo Direct for Kirby Air Riders, which I don't think anyone was asking for or expecting, especially when it comes in at an hour in length. Roughly, I'm not sure what the final length was. I kind of half watched it through a reaction stream of it, and based on what I saw and heard, it seems like the thing that really sucks about Kirby Air Riders is that it looks like it could be a fun game, and it stands out in the Nintendo pool of games in how thoughtful it seems to be in terms of the online infrastructure and setup of all that stuff with the lobby and all that jazz, in what little I saw, as well as including more accessibility options than one would typically expect from a Nintendo published and developed game, which is sad that that's true, but it is. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the game, a lot of modes, and I look at it and I think, I might like some of this stuff. But then you come to the price and it's like, but $70? You want me to pay $70 for this game? Why isn't it $40 or $50? $70, really? And it doesn't help that it's a game that, while not exactly a kart racer, looks a lot like a kart racer at first blush. So having it come out so soon after Mario Kart World, that's not great either. That would be like Donkey Kong Bonanza releasing in July, and getting a new 3D mainline Mario game in December. You're like, really? I mean, we just had Donkey Kong, and you're giving us now a Mario? I mean, cool, I like Mario, but I don't know, maybe spread it out a bit. So that feels weird. And then my favorite thing about the Direct, something that I pulled out and shared on the Discord, when Sakurai, is that his name? When he shows the 2 Amiibo they've already announced for the game, and then he goes under his table or whatever and pulls out 3 more. He has them all next to each other, and they look very cool. They are obviously more involved than any Amiibo has ever been before, with the ability to remove the riders and put them on other ships and so on. But even with that, they are $50 each. So when he had all of them lined up like that, that was $250 worth of Amiibo. That is insane to think about. That is the cost of a Switch 1. That, at one point, was how much you could spend to get an Xbox Series S. Not anymore. It's just crazy. It's also funny thinking about the price of Kirby Air Riders and just comparing prices of anything right now with Silksong, because that seems to be the popular thing to do. And if you do that, Kirby Air Riders is 3.5 Silk Songs, which is funny. But I'm very curious to see how the game does. I'm not expecting it to do well especially at that $70 price point. But at least Nintendo's not Xbox. I don't. There's just too much. I don't fucking whatever. Who cares? You don't like the ROG Xbox Ally X pricing? Don't blame us. It's Asus's product. Fucking blame them. They decided so. We're wiping our hands clean of that mess. Except also we're raising the prices of our development kits now by $500 from I think $1,500 to $2,000. Because in addition to not wanting people to buy Xboxes, we don't want people making games for Xbox either. So that sounds great. Also, we're taking a lot of design and idea standpoints, things from the ROG Xbox Ally X for our next proper Xbox console, which means it's just going to be a Steam box, and it's also going to cost $1,000. That's fun. Also, since the Activision Blizzard King acquisition, now Microsoft is telling us over here at Xbox, hey, you need to have unrealistic profit margins, ones that are way above the industry average, because that's what we demand. Profit. And you know how we could do that? Probably. Let's just fire everyone and use AI. Let's just make AI video games. Hooray, huzzah. It's such a sad state of affairs. And I was thinking, this is something I thought about a while. I don't know if it is the kind of thing that you can really promote and get it in front of people's eyes and ears, and if it would even be enough to get people to have picked up an Xbox in the past when it was more of a traditional box and more of a traditional console war type of thing. But I wonder if this would have moved the needle at all, significantly, insignificantly so. But I wonder what would have happened if Xbox still had its Game Pass thing going, but they said, you don't need Game Pass, any version, you don't need Game Pass Core, you don't need any version of Game Pass to play games online. So online play is now just free for everyone. And we're not just talking about free to play games like Fortnite, everything. You want to play Call of Duty online, not Warzone, regular old Call of Duty. You want to play NBA 2K, you want to play Madden, you want to play fucking, I don't know what else people play, but you want to do all that without a subscription, you can do that on Xbox. I think it's probably too far gone at that point to have had that make any kind of splash, but I do wonder sometimes. Anywho, fucking whatever. I just hate, I never call myself an Xbox fan, and this is kind of why, but it is my main console. I am a fan of the controller, I can say that at least. But as someone who is an Xbox first player, it's been a fucking miserable couple of months and change. Easily the most dire it's felt being someone who plays on Xbox. But let us get on to what I've been playing, which includes Dreams of Another, speaking of not Xbox, and then some NASCAR 25, a few Pinball FX tables, new tables, then Murder Inc., Acre Crisis, and MOUTHOLE. So Dreams of Another is the latest game from the Pixel Junk developers, who have done a lot of very artful, creative games in the past. I think of them a lot from the PS3 generation in particular, with stuff like Pixel Junk Shooter, Pixel Junk Eden, they also did the Pixel Junk Monster game, right? That's Pixel Junk. They did a lot of things. Pixel Junk Racer, I really like that game a lot. Very, very simple. But they dabble with a lot of different genres, and all their stuff had a very distinct, unique aesthetic that was very them, but also unique from game to game in its own way, in their own ways. And they're cool. They're one of those developers that you look at and you think, man, even if I don't quite jive with the gameplay and all that, I like what I'm looking at. I can appreciate that you're being different and you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. Dreams of Another is a weird third-person shooter type thing where you're inside this dreamlike world that's made up of, the worlds almost at times feel like they're just a bunch of different colored post-its. They're all these little squares, or in some cases they might look like little round, slightly translucent spheres. They almost, I don't know if this is really gonna work for anyone else, and I don't know if I'm even remembering this exactly right, or if these things even still exist. I mean, I'm sure they still exist in church basements, but I remember when my mom used to volunteer at this church basement thing, they had a bingo night, and I would go there and I'd play bingo, and they have these really thin circles that you would use to put them on the spots where a number would call. Of course, the pro bingo ladies would have their marker punch things, and they would just have fucking 15, 20 cards in front of them and just go punch, 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 punch. But I like there was something nice about those tangible pieces. Anywho, they kind of remind me of those. But I only played about 30 minutes because that was all I can stomach. It is visually very striking, but it is not engaging at all from a gameplay standpoint, from a narrative standpoint especially. It starts off with you as this kind of soldier who is unwilling to fire his weapon, and it's really slow moving. The characters talk in this very stilted, sluggish way that I don't know if it's supposed to be dreamlike. It didn't come across dreamlike or work dreamlike for me. And it was just this long drawn out, what are we fucking doing here? This story, this writing, paired with the voice acting, it's not working for me at all. Then you get out of that and they add more color to the world because it's a way more muted, muddy palette to start things off. And you are some young dude in your pajamas, and then you're like, oh, you wake up, but you're back in this dream world. And then you just go around shooting the world. The shooting basically will make these cloud-like, circular, very interesting looking volumetric. I don't even know how to describe it. It makes the world dissipate. The parts where you shoot it, where things seem more cloud-like and not more concrete. And then through that, you are discovering new pathways, new characters you can interact with. You have the wandering soldier in the world who will give you some kind of story stuff with it, but also you can give him particular objects you find in the world that will give you some kind of ability, whether it's a kind of glide thing or allowing you to sprint a little bit. But you're just doing that. And even one of the weirdest things about the game early on too is that when it describes you shooting in the world, it's talking about you being able to create through destruction. You're not actually destroying the world, you're creating. But I guess the mindset is that you're not destroying these things and revealing the world. You are I don't fucking, it doesn't make sense to me. Every time the narrative would chime in and a character would be talking, or I'd be going down this little side story with this NPC I found, I was like, man, I don't give a shit about this. This is not working for me at all. I'm not interested in this story. I do not like playing this game. It is very pretty to look at, sure, but I'm not having fun playing it, and I don't want to be here. So it was really, really disappointing because, again, I think it has such a unique art style that makes you want to play it, that makes you want to like it. If you're an appreciator of art, and especially unique art that is not just something you've seen before, but higher quality, higher fidelity. You know, this is very unique. This is a game that will grab your attention if you see it. But then if you touch the controller, you're gonna be like, this is what this is. All right. So yeah, disappointing there. Dreams of another. Next, we have NASCAR 25. Only played a very little bit of this. I dabble with the stories type mode, which seems very bare bones in just what little bit I touched. I mainly wanted to do a lot of exhibition races, just get a feel for the driving model and all that, because this is the first game from the, is it iRacing studio? So I wanted to get a feel for it, and based on the little bit I've played, again, I've played a very little bit of it, I am impressed. I enjoyed the handling and the feel of the cars, something I don't think I've been able to say about a NASCAR game in a while. It feels way more thought out, and I liked it. I think it has a nice bit of adjustability in terms of how assisted you want it versus more simmy and all of that. And I was also I don't know if I've ever seen this in a NASCAR game or even a racing game before, but the racers they have ratings. So you have your, I guess, your best racer who's rated either 99 or 100, and then there was a racer, there's like one really old looking dude who was rated like 40 something, and I just found that very weird. I've never seen that in a racing game before. Sure, you see that in wrestling games, you of course see that in your traditional sports games like Madden and NBA 2K, MLB The Show, etc. But in a racing game, maybe you see that in some. I don't know. I don't play enough of these types to really be able to say, but I found that funny. But ultimately, based on the little bit I played, it seems like a game very much so like the first proper PGA 2K, and we just had the second one recently. This first outing feels like a great foundation that they will be able to build upon to make something truly great with the next NASCAR. This is a good starting point. This is a good refresh for the NASCAR series. Because I've played the previous ones on and off, and they just felt like, I don't know, they lacked something. And this one has me intrigued. They have a lot of courses on there, including, and I was excited and happy to play this. They had the road course from Chicago. I, of course, live in Chicago. So it was nice driving on that. A little weird because typically when I play NASCAR games, I am driving on a traditional oval track. So being in this road track was a little weird in a NASCAR. But I had a pretty surprisingly good time with it. So yeah, solid foundation. And I don't want to say wait for the next year's edition, but you know, it's a game that you're probably better off waiting for a sale to check out this version. And yeah, it's NASCAR 25. I'm not the best person to speak on these types of games, and I didn't get as much time with it as I would have liked because I was, again, very busy with Attack the Backlog and other work stuff. So that is that. But what that did allow, working on all that stuff and getting things wrapped up in other aspects, it has allowed me to, what I will hope is a more open schedule moving forward. But then I checked out the new Pinball FX tables. We have a pair of Williams pinball tables, Scared Stiff and Elvira and the Party Monsters. Both of these, Scared Stiff is also an Elvira themed table. So we get some Halloween themed tables. to join the club. I played both, obviously. Not really a fan of Elvira and the Party Monsters. They do have a similar look to them, a lot of red, yellow, and orange with then a bit of green and purple. Scared Stiff, I was pleasantly surprised by. That one I found to be more enjoyable overall. Had more visual splendor and excitement, things going on in it. And then of maybe all of the tables I've played recently, this one I was able to keep the ball in play for way longer than I typically can. I had my first ball in play for maybe 10 minutes, which was very surprising. And it became more and more tense the longer I played because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still on my first ball. This is crazy. But I had a good time on that table. I don't love either of the tables because I don't have any particular affinity for Elvira. And they are proper tables, so they are real tables adapted here with some extra things put in because it is a digital version. But they aren't, I don't really like looking at them. I don't like the colors of them and how they're mixed together. And I don't think the actual table contents, bumpers, and all that jazz, the interactions you have on them are that exciting. So they're not they wouldn't be my go-to by any means, even thematically for this time of year. There are plenty of other ones they can go with. But a solid pair of additions to the lineup. And I'm always happy to see especially more real-world tables brought to the Pinball FX thing for those who I don't even know if these are in the Pinball Arcade, which had all its tables removed from purchase at least. But those who weren't able to get that for whatever reason, whether they didn't want to spend the money or got onto the pinball game much later, it's nice seeing more and more of these show up in Pinball FX. Murder Inc. is an almost interesting game. It is very clearly inspired heavily by Hotline Miami. Same top-down perspective, same overall vibe. I feel like there's even some similar text and font going on here. Maybe the exact same ones, I don't know, to try and elicit more of that, hey, this is kind of like Hotline Miami vibe going there. But the way it's different, and this could be interesting, but it, at least on a gamepad, on a controller, it feels very awful. The gameplay, it is from a top-down perspective, and it is that twin-stick shooter style of play, and you're going through these places room by room by room, defeating the hostile enemies towards you, except everything's moving at normal speed when you move, but where it twists the gameplay a little bit compared to Hotline Miami is in the fact that it's actually way more like Super Hot. Well, it's exactly like Super Hot, where things are happening at a snail's pace. They're not completely paused, but things are happening much slower when you're not moving. So if an enemy spots you and you don't move, they'll be coming at you very, very slowly. If they have a gun, they will fire at you and the bullets will move very, very slowly, allowing you to adjust and strategize how you want to handle this. Do you want to shoot? Do you want to try and lead the bullet so that the bullet will be on them when they're moving to that space? So on and so forth. Conceptually, very, very cool. However, in practice, it feels like shit on a controller specifically because the on-screen cursor, how I remember it working in Hotline Miami is that the cursor moves in front of you, but it can only extend out, I don't know, maybe screen-wise an inch in front of your character, and then you can rotate around your character like a classic twin stick shooter fashion. How it works in Murder Inc. instead is that it is just a free cursor that you can move around the entire screen wherever you want. So it's a twin stick shooter kind of, in that you're moving with the left analog stick and rotating your character with the right analog stick. However, you're not really rotating your character with the right analog stick because you're just moving the cursor with the right analog stick, and you can move it anywhere on screen, I think even off screen, and it becomes unwieldy almost immediately. It feels awful. It also kind of feels stick drifty at times, where it feels like it trails off on its own every now and again. And I hate it. I hate it so much. And I don't know, I'm assuming that the reason why it's a free moving cursor instead of this more of a traditional twin stick setup is because when you move the cursor over an enemy, regardless of whether they're in your line of sight, as long as they're on the screen and you, the player, can see them, if you are right on top of them with the cursor, you can lock onto them. And as soon as you do that, you will be focused, your character will be focused on them, and so you can move them freely without having to move the right analog stick. It may sound like that alleviates the problem, but what it ends up doing more so for me, and I would say anyone playing it with a controller, is that it slows down the pace of the game and the style of the game, so that instead of really feeling like it kind of dumbs down the experience in a way that I don't like, where I'm just, and again, slows down the pace of it, slows down the gameplay by having me scroll to move the cursor over an enemy, lock onto them, and then move my character ever so slightly to get into the right position and deal with them one by one in a way that, I don't know, I don't like it. I don't like it. It really felt uncomfortable, and I wanted a more traditional twin stick shooter. I wanted more agency over the whole thing myself, and I wanted, when I would kill an enemy, shoot them accurately, I wanted it to feel more so like I did that, as opposed to, well, I just locked onto them and I wait until they were in this position, and I'm, I don't like it. That is, again, though, Murder Inc. Acre Crisis is this survival horror game where you are in a small group of military type folk. You're in a helicopter going somewhere, I can't remember exactly where. You end up crashing in this forested area, and you find out that this forested area is overrun with dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are real, and they're here. The game looks not great. Old polygonal graphics. Your hand is one solid object, and when you are picking up things, you're just like, it's very weird and awkward looking. The gunplay and the combat feels especially awful, and that's my main reason for not liking it. You can't adjust. You can't change the control layout on console, at least, maybe on PC. But regardless of that, first, the gameplay just, like, it's not a fun game to play. When I started exploring more of the world and it opened up a bit, I was just getting hounded by dinosaurs over and over and over again. It felt exhausting. I was just like, will you stop spawning waves of dinosaurs? I keep wanting to call them spiders for some reason. Just stop it with the dinosaurs for a little bit, for the love of God. But what I hate about the way the game plays is that to use your flashlight, you press the left trigger. To equip your weapon, whether it be a machete or a gun, you press the right trigger. You press and hold the right trigger. And then to fire, you press the B button. Why? Why is it not that the B button brings up your flashlight, and then you equip your weapon by holding the left trigger and fire with the right trigger like every other fucking game? Why? Why? Who thought this was a good idea? I don't understand this. it feels terrible. It feels truly awful. It's just so weird. And it makes it so that when you are in combat, you can't adjust your view because your thumb is now forced to press the B button to attack. As opposed to if it was the left and right trigger, you could move yourself around with the left trigger and look around with the right trigger. You can't do that now because combat is all tied to the right-hand side of the controller. Fucking stupid. You can't change it in the controls, in the options, and that alone ruins the game for me. Any potential the game had for me of being anything I cared about or anything I'd be worth recommending. It's just, what the, who? I look at that kind of stuff in any game and I think to myself, you're just doing this to try and be different. And you know what? Maybe don't. Maybe don't. Because you're not understanding the point of the assignment. Wanting to be different is an admirable thing to go after, but know when it's the right decision and when it's the wrong decision. And this is the wrong decision. So that's Acre Crisis. And then the last one is MOUTHOLE, which is this kind of interesting exploratory game where you are thrown into this house and you explore it, and it can get very, very surreal. But I don't know. I think one of the things that really bothered me about it is that it is very much so an adventure type game where you are looking around your spaces, interacting with various objects. So you got a computer, you'll interact with it in however you do. But when you have the icon that shows you can interact over something, it is so... You could be looking 3-4 feet away from a computer, the computer screen, and you see something else that looks like something you might be able to interact with, but it's not something you can interact with. But the icon is there, and when you press it, your character will snap back to the computer. Be like, okay, the computer, do you want to browse the internet? Do you want to go do this? Do you want to do that? And you're thinking to yourself, I wasn't even looking at the computer. I was looking this way. Why? Well, clearly I can't interact with this thing, but why is the space that is allowing me to interact with this so wide? If I'm not looking at it, don't just assume that I still want to. That is a common occurrence, at least I had when playing the game. And then exploring the world is just, I don't know. It's kind of funky. There was a time where I found a sponge in the lower bathroom in the shower. So then I wiped off the bathroom mirror in the upstairs bathroom. I brushed my teeth and then I looked at my mouth and I went into my mouth. And then I was inside my mouth, looking inside of it, walking around it. I played with a tonsil. I went into one hole where the tooth was missing. And then I was in this kind of deserty world where I walked around a little bit and I found, I think, the key to a door on the bottom floor of my house and open up a new area and so on. And that kind of surreal, weird, abstract, exploratory vibe of the game, I think, is very interesting and fun. But the weird aspect, the very finicky nature of interacting with objects hurt the experience. And then part of it is that it is a game you will find abrupt endings to. So when I first started it, I died within 5 minutes because instead of walking down the stairs, I saw that there was an opening and I figured, okay, it's going to be much quicker if I just go past this part without railing and fall down to the first floor instead. I broke both my legs and died. And then my second meteor run, I ended up in the basement. I saw a 6-pack of beer, and I drank one after another, and the sixth one made my stomach explode. So some of that stuff is fun as well. It's not that I don't dislike the game. and I appreciate a lot of what's going on and what it's doing. But I just ended up in my 2 playthroughs of it leaving thinking I kind of like this, but also I'm not as enticed to keep playing. I'm intrigued, but I'm not intrigued enough to want to keep exploring more. I also don't like the fact that when you first start the game, it asks you your name and then it asks you a few additional questions like, I think, what kind of TV shows do you like? What's your favorite color? And maybe one other question. You have to do this every time. And that is very tedious. It's not a super long process, of course, but I don't want to have to do that after the first time. I want the game to remember this stuff, even if it has some kind of factor in how the gameplay turns out or how the world is shaped. It's a tedious process. I don't like doing it. I don't have to. The second time I played through the game, I just put my name as X because I'm like, fucking, I don't care. I didn't pick my favorite color. I just picked the default one. I just quickly picked whatever fucking default thing it was on for the TV show too. I was like, I don't give a shit. I just want to get back in the world and explore more of it. Because I died within 5 minutes after breaking my legs. I want to not break my legs and see what else this game has to offer. So I think that's a way in which they could make the replaying process a little smoother, because that's such a key part of the game too, is finding these endings and restarting your playthrough with your personal gained knowledge and so on. But yeah, that is Mouthhole, and that is going to do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Mark Kuznez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to the Sausage Dump, where I talk about this, that, and whatever, as well as a private Discord channel and some fancy Discord roles. Or you can just support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time, go daddy. It's go time, go daddy.